Hi Rose, we stay with the National Gallery.
We're back at the National Gallery.
Yeah, because we like it so much, and there's another fantastic painting that we both visited together and want to talk about today, and that is Mars and Venus.
I think it's so interesting, this painting, isn't it? Because you go and see it in the gallery and you see it on a beautiful wall, and there it is, you can stand and stop and stare at it, and you completely forget the context, the way in which it was. Well, you don't forget, but you're not aware of the context. It's very hard for a gallery to show it, but they have given a good go, haven't they?
Absolutely, because they put underneath it and opposite on the wall actually as well a example of a cassone, which most probably, we don't know 100%, but most probably was what this was painted for. A cassone is a wedding chest. And this might have been the backboard for one of those wedding chests.
The backboard, so...
The backboard, it's called a spaliere, and that is, you would place this chest against the wall of a bedroom, and they were decorated beautifully as this one, with scenes that have something to do with marriage, married life and so on.
So it's not the lid, it's sort of the backdrop almost.
Yeah. Yeah, there are other parts where the inside would be painted, or you could of course see the whole cassone, the whole chest, but this was that part that was permanently on view on the back.
So it's really a setting for your married life, isn't it?
Absolutely, and how fitting, it's Venus and Mars here.
Do you think?
Absolutely.
God of War.
The god of war, the goddess of love, and they obviously, as we know from mythology, encountered each other many times. And I think we've got an example here that just shows you how a whole cassone looked like, and so it would be this part here. This is the spaliere, and I found a picture, a painting showing one of these cassone carried from one house, so that would be the house of the girl, of the young woman to be married, into the house of her future husband. And
that would be a big moment, wouldn't it? Because you'd be very secluded, wouldn't you? Cloistered as a young girl, and then it would be an arranged marriage, wouldn't it?
Of course.
So for all this talk of God of love and so on,
absolutely,
it would be someone possibly much older than you who your family just wants to alliance with.
Of course, romantic marriage is many centuries to come. This is all about money. Florence, we sort of talk about Florence, is all about the patrician high society families marrying off their daughters.
They were always popping up, weren't they, and bugging each other and sending themselves into exile or others into exile.
Oh yeah.
So the God of Love may be a little bit of a cover.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you look at this, here we have it again, here on the right hand side.
Oh yes.
It's a cassone carriage.
So it's a big show-off moment as well, isn't that?
It's a procession. Absolutely, big show-off moment. And
how big my cassone is. It's painted by Botticelli.
Yeah, exactly. And here she goes from her former, maybe innocent, relatively free life of a girl into the house and the property of her husband.
Chattel, like a chest.
Yeah.
And where would it have been, this chest? Would it in the house?
Well, they would have been exactly in the bedroom. This actually is the Palazzo d'Avanzati, an older, so pre-Renaissance palace, but it shows very much perfectly how these rooms were set up. And there were not just bedrooms like our bedrooms where you withdraw, you pull the cover over your head and have nothing to do with the rest of the world if you like. No, these were semi-public spaces where you would receive visitors. So the objects displayed here were very important, and if you could afford paying someone like Botticelli, then you could put that on display. So all of that
wouldn't want Botticelli on display.
Keep in mind when we look at it.
So it's almost it's a sort of inspirational decor, isn't it? You as you embark on your married life.
Yeah. So now let's look closer at the painting itself. Left we have Venus, who we know, of course, by Botticelli from the famous Venus rising from the shell in the Uffizi. But here, interestingly, she's clothed, and Mars on the right-hand side.
Yeah, and he's naked. Well, apart from a handily placed bit of cloth, but yes, he's.
So that's interesting. In the history of art, usually we have the dressed man looking at the undressed woman, and here it's the other way around. So what
could it be a classical thing, do you think? You know how you get classical male nudes, but they're intended to be dressed? Possibly there's that, because it's the Renaissance, isn't it? It's the rebirth of classical antiquity. I think this is painted before the birth of Venus, and I think this is on the cusp. I think this is when it was just a bit too shocking to have a naked woman.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, also the classical male nude was usually standing, heroic nudes. You know,
yes, that's true. It doesn't look terribly heroic, does it?
Not at all.
It looks rather worn out. Do you think it's too much battle?
I think it was, what the battle we're talking about, and who has lost and who has won. I think it's got something to do with it. So he's asleep, she's awake, she's dressed, he's nude.
But her dress is, it's not that much of a dress, is it? It's it seems to be held just by a brooch here. It wouldn't take much.
That's true. It's a lovely diaphanous fabric. It's so thin and it's floating over her body.
He's really showing his skill, isn't he? I think we can look a little bit closer. Obviously, when you're in the gallery, you can go right up.
Yeah, you can see the body underneath.
It's beautiful, isn't it? In a way, it's much more alluring. Here she is. Very chaste. She's got a wistful expression on her face, doesn't she? I wonder if she was to encourage the young girl who married into this strange family, gone into this strange life, left her family, to say, that's what happens to us all.
Yeah, and use your
womanly wiles,
womanly armour.
Yeah, let's see what she gets up to with her womanly armour.
Those little
satyrs, aren't they?
Satyrs.
So they're half goat, half sort of cherub, and I think this is the first time they've been depicted.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
They look rather saucy, don't they?
They do. And they're also playful. They're
cute.
Mars helmet, and
they're definitely cheeky, aren't they? And they're blowing into Mars's ear. There's Mars having a good old snooze, and they've got his lance, which it's rather strong horizontal across the painting, isn't it? And then a conch, a shell, and they're blowing in his ear and not waking him up. What do you think that refers to? What do you think happened?
Quite obviously, yeah. Well, I think that they had a great time together, and he's completely exhausted, and he can't wake up because of postcoital stress.
That's a suggestion, isn't it? And even though this is obviously pre-Freudian, it's hard not to read some sort of Freudian imagery, isn't it, with the very big lobs.
Absolutely.
And then under his he's got his finger and this metal thing, which apparently is a key element of armour for doing battle, but frankly I think we can consider it's quite phallic also. So there's an eroticism here, isn't there, which I suppose it's Mars and Venus, so they're gods, so that's fine, you can have a bit of eroticism, but also because it's this idea of love conquering war, isn't it?
And also Botticelli was a Neoplatonist, wasn't he? He was a part of the Neoplatonic Academy, or at least was very interested in it. And it shows, I think, that Venus is not herself the seductive, smiling figure, but she is the master, the mistress of what happens. She is the all-powerful one.
Exactly, and I think that's why she's probably quite inspirational for whoever it was. Do we know who it was?
Yes, yeah, we know. He was he had a muse called Simonetta Vespucci.
And, yes, you recognise her, don't you?
You can really tell. I mean, on the left, obviously, is her face in the Venus in the Uffizi. And then there's a portrait of her that shows her lovely hair and
her wistfulness, isn't it? She's not in ecstasy at all, is she? She's quite wary, quite watchful. Sort of saying, do what you can, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at... These are so adorable, aren't they?
Yeah.
And look at this armour. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? He's stolen his battle armour, his helmet and his lance.
And they're just playing with it. And look in the mouth of the little satyr boy.
The mouth.
The mouth, yeah. I think this the tongue that's sticking out. I think that's also. I mean, obviously playful here, but
quite
also a little bit
sensitive as well.
Yeah. It's full of little illusions like that.
And then you've got these. This is very lovely, isn't it? With, you see the shell, which of course is a status symbol, it suggests travel, blowing, and then around there are these wasps. What are the wasps about, do you think? Do you think it's sort of love stings? What else could it be?
Well, it could be, but it's also suggested that it's got something to do with the patron, with the person who paid for it, who commissioned it, and they are the Vespucci family, and Simonetta is a Vespucci, and the Vespe is in Vespucci, means the wasps. So yeah,
quite something.